Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles. Why Rear Admiral? You really have to ask. Don't worry, the rest of this video is going to be safe for work. Today I'm taking a look at, one of the cheapest ships available in World of Warships. It's the premium Tier 2 American cruiser, the USS Albany. This thing will cost you 500 of whatever they're calling the in-game currency in World of Warships this week. The smallest amount of gold that you can currently buy, at least on the EU gift shop, is 2,500 gold. And this is worth a fifth of that 2,500 gold. At the moment, in the premium gift shop, will cost you £7 and 5 pence, or whatever the equivalent of that is in your currency. So a fifth of that comes to £1 and 40 pence. That's the price of the USS Albany. Cheapest chips. However, I still think they're charging too much. Hang on a minute, what's going on here? Jingles, you never have anything bad to say about World of Warships? Well, I do now, because the Albany is terrible. Which is quite surprising, because the real thing wasn't bad at all. There was nothing spectacular about it, but for its time, it was a perfectly competent light cruiser. It was laid down in my hometown, Newcastle upon Tyne in England, by Armstrong Whitworth shipbuilders on the 8th of December 1897, but it was originally built for the Brazilian Navy. It was going to be known as the Almirante Abreu. I've probably mispronounced that, my apologies to Brazil. However, the USA bought it on the 16th of March 1898 in order to prevent her from being taken over by the Spanish Navy during the Spanish-American War. They renamed her the Albany, and she was launched in 1899. She was commissioned into the US Navy on the 29th of May 1900, and then decommissioned sometime in June 1904. And then she was commissioned again on the 10th of June 1907 and decommissioned on the 23rd of December 1913. And then she was recommissioned again on the 17th of April 1914 and decommissioned on the 4th of December 1914, only to be recommissioned again. I'm detecting a pattern emerging here. On the 21st of May 1916 and finally decommissioned for the final time on the 10th of October 1922, was struck from the Naval Register on the 3rd November 1929 and sold for scrap in 1930. She had a bit of a checkered career, the poor old girl. The USS Albany that we see here in World of Warships is a fairly faithful representation of the real thing. The speed's about right. The weapons are about right, 6 6-inch guns with a secondary battery consisting of 120mm guns. The only real difference is that the real ship also was equipped with 3 18-inch torpedo tubes, which is missing here in World of Warships. It's a fairly accurate representation of the real thing. Unfortunately, the real thing was really, really slow, and its guns had a very, very short range. And that's also true here in World of Warships, and that's the big problem with the USS Albany. You see, the Albany was designed and constructed at a time when the main job of a cruiser was to protect shipping lanes and look after merchant ships in far-flung outposts of various different empires, and a ship doing that kind of job needs to have long range and endurance rather than speed, and the Albany was perfectly good at that job. That's what it was designed to do. But it was slow, and the US Navy didn't really start investing in fast, light scout cruisers, like, for example, the Phoenix and the Omaha, until well after this ship had seen its better days. So what we have here in World of Warships is a light cruiser that has a maximum speed of 20 knots. Now, that low top speed in and of itself isn't such a major problem. There are plenty of other ships in World of Warships at or around this level that do that or close to that kind of speed. The Aurora, for example, the Tier 3 premium Russian cruiser, can also only do 20 knots. But the major difference here is the firing range of the guns. The Albany can only fire its guns out to a range of 6.3 kilometers. The Aurora has almost twice that firing range. Why is that such a problem? Well, let me give you an example. Let's have a look at the American Tier 2 destroyer, the USS Sampson, which is a very, very good little destroyer. The Sampson has a speed of 30 knots. It can fire its guns out to a range of 8.6 kilometers, and it can only be spotted from 5.9 kilometers away. So what that means is the Sampson can stay outside of the Albany's shooting range, and therefore outside of the Albany's view range, while keeping the Albany inside his shooting range, and constantly whittling away the Albany's health with a barrage of long-range artillery fire. Even worse, because it's a destroyer and it can only be detected from 5.9 kilometers away, the Albany will never even see the ship that's killing it. Now, the captain of the Albany will, of course, be able to see from which direction the shots are coming, but that's pretty much all he's ever going to be able to do, because his ship can only do 20 knots, and the Samson can do 30, so he's never going to get close enough to identify, let alone start shooting at whoever it is who's killing him. Now, this is, of course, an extreme example for a couple of reasons. We're treating these two examples of ships in isolation. It's never going to be like that in a real battle, unless you're the only two left in the match. The Albany is, of course, not going to be spotting its own targets. There are going to be friendly destroyers and other faster cruisers, for example, hell, even faster battleships, up ahead, who are going to be spotting targets for you, but you still have to get within 6.3 kilometers of them, which is secondary battery range on some of the battleships in the game, before you can start shooting at them. It's just an intensely difficult ship to drive. It's not that you can't do well in the Albany, and I have done relatively well in the Albany, but it's hard work because of the slow speed of the ship and the pitifully short-range guns. And the short firing range of the guns isn't the only problem, because while it might have six 6-inch guns, it can only ever point 4 of them at the target at the same time. It's got one at the front, one at the back, and 2 in each side, so 4 guns is the most that you can ever bring to bear on the target. Which means that technically this thing has less firepower than certain destroyers. And it doesn't even have the torpedoes that destroyers have, that this thing should have. The real thing did have 3 18-inch torpedo tubes. This battle, obviously not an awful lot of people playing. I haven't had the Albany for very long, and I haven't played that many games in it because I just don't like it. This was not a terrible game, but it's going to illustrate the deficiencies of the ship pretty well. I finally managed to get within gun range of these ships, and the only reason they're not shooting at me is because there's a St. Louis there who was exchanging fire with them, and they've all been taking pot shots at him first, but now the St. Louis has sailed out of their line of sight, so I'm the next victim. Now, I'm in range of all these ships. Unfortunately, I'm now the only one that they have to shoot at. 2 destroyers and a battleship. I don't like these odds. The Albany is very manoeuvrable, despite its slow speed, however. It is very good at dodging torpedoes and very good at dodging gunfire. But it's going to need to be, because it only has 16,500 health, which is not a lot. That battleship's got me in his sights. Here come the torpedoes. Battleship's firing. Here it comes. That's going to hurt. Yep, it's knocked out my steering. Immediately repair that, otherwise I would have run aground. Turn. Don't want to run aground here. Oh, this is going to be tight. This is going to be tight. I finally switched to high explosive. I was hoping to get some shots in on that battleship, but then the destroyers are the major threat. Oh well, that's the thing. The destroyers would be the major threat. Normally, cruisers are a major problem for destroyer captains, but the Albany isn't. It's just... most of the destroyers have guns that have longer range than this thing. These guys are all out of range again. They can all still shoot me, but I cannot hit them. Oh, I can shoot this fella, so we'll do that. I still have HE loaded, but he's on low health. Let's see what we can do. Trying to keep that island between myself and the battleship. The battleship can wreck me. He's just scored a hit on the cruiser up ahead. Oh crap, not watching where I'm going. Not watching where I'm going. I am safe, however. None of these guys have a line of fire on me. Well, that stopped me in a hurry. Let's back up and then get this thing underway again before that battleship clears that island and is able to bring his guns to bear. I think there was another destroyer up there. He's probably got me spotted. He'll be outside of my view range. There's one destroyer spotted, and he's launching torpedoes against the cruiser up ahead. Smoke screen at the back there. The second destroyer is probably there, and that battleship is about to clear that island, and I really don't want to get shot at by him again. He didn't do that much damage to me, but he did knock out my steering. Luckily, my repairability is back up. I'm still out of range of that destroyer, who has sunk the cruiser up ahead. And if he plays his cards right... oh, that guy's taken a ferocious beating. That's good news. If that destroyer plays his cards right, I can never shoot him. There we go. He's just disappeared from view range. He can still see me, and if he was to fire his guns, I would probably... There we go, he's in range again. I can only get 2 guns pointed at him from here, head on. He's still got plenty of health. He's right at the extreme limit of my firing range. He's launched torpedoes. Did you see the splashes in the water to the side of the ship? That's him launching torpedoes at me. He's not shooting at me, thankfully. And there's that battleship. And the only reason I'm still in this game is because most of these guys were shooting at other targets closer to them. I've knocked out some of that guy's guns, switching back to armor piercing to deal with the battleship, and hoping that that cruiser on my port side is going to stay in the game long enough to keep these guys occupied so I can finally start shooting at things. There go the torpedoes from the destroyer. I did see the torpedoes as they were launched, so I knew they were coming. Destroyer's closer. Still got armor piercing loaded. I really should be switching to high explosive for this. And, well, hitting him would be nice. Oh, armor piercing's loaded. Let's get some shots in on this battleship. Torpedoes in the water again, of course. It's a low-level destroyer, of course. This is a Tier 2, Tier 3 game, so these guys only launch 2 torpedoes at once from each launcher. High explosive back up again. Try and finish this guy off. No, he's gone. Battleship just in the limits of my firing range. He still has plenty of health. Luckily, I can actually catch this guy. He's going to find it difficult to sail away from me. And as long as I'm engaged in a stern chase... Oh, torpedoes in the water. He's dodging them. Second wave of torpedoes in the water. Well, as long as he's engaged in a stern chase, there's a limited number of gun batteries that he can turn to bear on me. But he is actually getting away from me. And, oh, I've just caught up to him again. Right at the extreme limit of my guns. Of course, I can only aim 2 or 3 guns at him. And he's now broadside on. So he can give me significant problems. We've definitely got a destroyer up ahead there in that smoke screen. And that appears to be the guy who is occupying this battleship's attention. Otherwise, I would be in all kinds of trouble. I'll tell you what, though, these 6-inch guns... Oh, we've got him, we've got him. He's just... He had his engine knocked out. He's just used his repair ability. So if he gets hit again, and we can set him on fire, maybe knock out his steering, there's going to be nothing he can do about it. More torpedoes in the water from the destroyer in the smoke screen. And he's focusing on that destroyer, and I just took a hit from something, and I have no idea what. Something over there. Oh, there we go. An enemy cruiser. Well outside my gun range. And there is absolutely nothing I can do about it. I'm going to finish this battleship off, hopefully. And we got him before he could turn his guns around. We have won this game. The outcome of this game is in no doubt whatsoever. But this is the kind of situation that I'm talking about here. That cruiser up ahead can shoot at me. He just did. He is well outside of my gun range. And I am never going to be able to catch him. Maybe I can close the distance while he's engaging this friendly cruiser up ahead. But if he kills him quickly enough, and then just turns away from me, and he has killed him, and he's getting shelled by somebody way over across to the other side, and he has hardly any health left, but look at the range. And here it comes. Absolutely nothing I can do about it. Full speed to the engines. I'm steaming straight towards him, and he is sailing beam on to me. And he's just abusing, you know, as well he should. He's just abusing the crappy range of my guns. And now he turns away, and that's it. I am never going to catch him. And that, in fact, is exactly what happens. The game's lost. I mean, he knows he's not going to win. But he knows that he can just farm damage on me until the points reach 1,000 and he loses. And he actually ends up doing quite well out of this. He didn't have a particularly good game, but he made up for it in the damage that he did to me as I was vainly steaming towards him at my pitiful full speed of 20 knots, just completely unable to point the guns at him. And at this point I realised, you know what, I'm just giving this guy free experience and credits. So I try to put this island between us and get this big fat cruiser-shaped pinata out of the range, or out of the direct line of fire of his guns, before we reach 1,000 points, and this game is over. And that is the problem with the Albany, and why it's such a bad ship. I mean, it is a very, very cheap Tier 2 premium cruiser. It'll cost £1.40. But I still think they're overcharging for it. I absolutely definitely cannot recommend this thing. The combination of bad top speed and criminally bad gun range, 6.3 kilometer gun range on a ship that can only do 20 knots. You constantly find yourself late to the party when you're driving this thing. The ships ahead of you either kill everything before you get there, or they all die and then you die next, because suddenly you're within range of everything that killed them and you're too slow to get away. And you can't return fire while you're running away because your guns can only fire out to a range of 6.3 kilometers. I definitely cannot recommend this ship, and it's the first thing that I have been really disappointed with when playing World of Warships. However, it is very, very cheap, and it is your money, so spend wisely. I hope you enjoyed today's video, folks. That's it. Until Monday's episode of Mingles with Jingles, enjoy your weekend. I plan to enjoy mine, and I'll see you on Monday. As always, folks, take care, and I'll catch you next time.